Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jeff Mendelson, and this is the One Big Tip podcast. And today, I am really pleased to have with me on the line two guests. I have Daniel Stafford and Robby Switzer. Daniel and Robby are the founders of Shopanova, a modern growth media buying agency for e-commerce brands where they help clients grow their revenues to 5 figures all the way up to 7 figures and beyond. Before they discovered the power of Facebook ads, they were just barely breaking even in their first marketing business. But now they've been able to leverage the power of Facebook and other channels to create effective processes and funnels to make everyone more money than ever, including for their own team. So today we're going to talk about how you can grow, scale, and sustain your e-commerce business and how to use this multi-channel approach in order to make it happen for you as well. Daniel and Robby, thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much, Jeff, for having us on. We're super excited to be here and excited to dive into things.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, I love it. So I love it when I have multiple guests because then we could just go and bounce a bunch of ideas off each other. I'm curious though, how did you guys get started with this? Did this start as a digital marketing agency and then just move it into building products for yourselves, or was it sort of a hybrid of you working for others and yourself? Like how did all this come about?
Yeah, we'll give you the short and sweet version here. But essentially, we grew up here, commercial fishing and doing construction in Homer, Alaska, small town in Alaska, and just basically had our lives planned out in front of us. It was what you're supposed to do to be a good Alaskan, and we went and we did. Long story short, Daniel rolled his boat, and I was having kids. We were both having kids, new families, and we're just like, you know what, we got to try something different. And when we were on the boats, and that's a big story to breeze over.
Yeah, that is a big one.
I want to be intentional with our time here. When we were on the boats, we always had video cameras with us, and so we're like, okay. I think you read Think and Grow Rich at the time. It's like, we have the power to do something different than what has ever been done before us. Let's just start with what we love doing, which is making videos. Let's start a video production company. So we did that. We're like, hey, we're going to be the biggest video production company in Alaska. We launched it. We made a few videos, but long story short, the first year was just like a complete failure. Like I think you just said, we were breaking even. We weren't breaking even. We were suffering. We were losing money. It was really hard at home, and it was really hard to justify to our wives, like, why leave something that was actually decently good for us financially to pursue something that feels like a pipe dream.
And it was hard for me too, right? Because I just rolled my boat, went into all that debt that you just breezed over to starting a startup, a new business, and all the challenges that come with that, and especially the financial challenges of our wives going, hey, where's the money from this new venture? And us constantly having to sell them on that dream of starting a business. But anyways, I wanted to throw that in there before you move on.
The blessing in disguise, though, was that in that journey, as we were making videos for clients, we were to ask them, how is your business blown up? Like, is this doing an amazing thing for you? And they'd be like, we posted it on our site, posted it on social media, got a couple of views, but no, nothing's really changed. And we're like, dang, that's not right.
Using the video right.
And so then, like, trying to answer that question, what do you do when you have a good marketing asset? How do you use a marketing asset to grow your business? Really led us down the rabbit trail of like advertising. How do we take an asset and use it to grow a business? And our entry point was Facebook ads. And basically the story of us getting started is just surrounding ourselves with people who have done what we wanted to do before us. We invested in ourselves, invested in that mentorship and coaching. And then we were able to start bringing on clients. But even though we were fairly inexperienced, we had top-notch people in our corner to show us how to get our first few case studies. And then it kind of just snowballed from there to now we have 40 employees. We've been able to generate our clients over $150 million in revenue. And we feel like we're just getting started.
What an amazing story. I mean, think about it. First of all, let's start with the obvious. You're not doing this from a major metropolitan center. You're doing this, from your hometown, right? Which is, which is pretty remote from the continental US. but
Yeah.
also you were able to parlay part of that experience into, into creating something tangible, into creating something that had legs, right?
Mhm.
And also, I think the second lesson here is getting the mentors on board early,
Totally.
right? Don't try to figure this all out on your own. Anyone can go to a Barnes and Noble or order all the books on Amazon and get them shipped over to you. But there's nothing like having someone to actually help you and tell you what to do, analyze what it is that you're working on, and help sharpen that direction so that you can go forward with that. I think that's an
Mhm.
amazing story.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and it's so important too. I mean, I'm so glad we learned that lesson early on. You just honed in on such a big one, and that is investing in yourselves, hiring mentors to expedite your process and show you your
Yep.
shortcomings. Because, ultimately, the slowest way to learn is by experience, is by trial and error. That's a way to learn, but if you can have someone that's already done that, show you the path, it's game on.
Corollary to that is, a lot of people are like, I don't have $10,000 to pay for this mentor, right? Why
Yeah.
am I going to, why am I going to go and do that? I can learn this stuff on my own. But then they don't factor in the cost of their time, right? And
Oh,
when,
yeah.
and after everything is said and done, after all that 6 months or a year or all those mistakes that you made, all of a sudden, boom, I just blew through 6 months where, put yourself at $10 an hour. I don't care. Pay yourself minimum wage. You'll still have paid more
Totally.
in terms of that lost opportunity than if you would have paid that coach in the beginning, right?
Mhm.
I think
100%.
that's
Yeah.
it's such a poignant example, and yeah, I just wish more people would listen to that. So,
Mhm.
thank you so
Yeah,
much for sharing that.
totally. Yeah, and at the same time, to that point, you gotta find the right coach, because we've had experiences too where we pay a coach $20,000 and didn't get near the result that we were after or promised. So I think there is some vetting, and I don't want that to scare people from not getting a coach, but I would say make sure the coach that you're hiring has actually done what you wanna do.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so important. Look for the proof, and not just the manufactured proof, but the actual proof, the actual numbers and something that they can show.
Yep.
I call it the subtle flex almost, so it's like, you look at the Rolex on the guy's hand. You look at the way they carry themselves. People that are accomplished just carry themselves differently,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And if you can pick up on that nuance, then you're totally home.
Yeah.
So I wanted to switch gears for a minute into your one big tip. And at first, we were going to talk, mostly about Facebook, but then, that's really it's really morphed, especially over the past 12 months, in
Yeah.
terms of, this fight that Apple and Facebook are going through. The fact that millennials and younger people are not using Facebook in the same way that we were using it 5 years ago. There are
Mhm.
so many changes, so many tectonic changes that are happening right now that
Mhm.
you need to know about in order to get your brand out there. You can't just hang your shingle on just one platform, right? And especially, all of these platforms are platforms that, let's face it, you don't own, right? You can get kicked off of Facebook in a New York second. You can
Totally.
get kicked off of TikTok, very quickly. If you say something wrong on LinkedIn, you're gone. And there's really no one to talk to, right?
Yeah.
So
100%.
let's talk for a minute about how e-commerce brands can work on a multi-channel approach
Mhm.
to promoting their brands and to grow, instead of just focusing on one or two channels, which may or may not help them.
Mhm. Man, you nailed it on the head, brother. I mean, it's like l there's been a slow ramp up to e-commerce in general. And so if we look back at the last, 4 or 5 years, it's just been a steadily building. And then when COVID hit in 2020, that was kind of the anomaly where it just started going crazy. And it didn't matter. You could have just a pretty lousy marketing strategy of kind of a one trick approach to acquiring customers. And
Yep.
you could scale that vertically as hard as you can all day and actually do like pretty well and turn some pretty good profit, build a good foundation for your business. But as we've moved into this year, we're seeing a little bit of, e-commerce for the most part, still making a trajectory onward and upward. But there is a little bit of a pendulum swing where it's like, we went really hard online when everybody was home, and now everybody's excited to be back out and about and shopping in person, especially moving into the holiday season. And we're just seeing a little bit of dip in e-commerce. And you mentioned it again, Apple and Facebook, attribution. There's all kinds of issues where that can like knock you off your horse. And if you only have one trick to growing your business, you're in a very vulnerable position. So I think when we got this scheduled, it was several months back. It was all about building Facebook ads, because that was the number one place where you could focus and get the most leverage with the smallest amount of effort. And there was just a ton of leverage there.
And
But
something that
now-
even recently happened that reinforces his point is even a few days ago, Facebook and Instagram like disappeared from the internet.
Right.
There was all these conspiracies going around. Like, is this even coming back? Is it completely gone? Like,
End
what's
of the
going
world?
on here? Because it's the end of the world. But that could happen at any moment to any one of your businesses where you are just gone
Yep.
from that platform all of a sudden.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is that Black Mirror on Netflix, they did an episode where basically you can turn off, a person where they just turn white and no one can interact with you. That is exactly what happened with this Facebook outage, right? All of a sudden, everybody got a day off from social media, right? They couldn't do their Facebook ads. They couldn't even post pictures of their food. They couldn't WhatsApp, they couldn't do anything, right? And everyone was just like, wait a second, is this just me? Is this what a nuclear war looks like? Is this going to be the new normal? It's like, dude, no, that's, this is very abnormal. And you can bet, some people are getting hammered right now because how the hell did this thing go down?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I want to focus in though, specifically on the, on the e-commerce brands that you guys work with. And I want to clear something up both for my, both for my clarity, but I think also for the audience as well. When we're talking about e-commerce, we're not necessarily talking about shopping carts, right? We're not necessarily talking about just, here's a massive grid of all the products that we sell and, go ahead and do it. Like we're really talking about just about anything, tangible that can be sold online and shipped, right? So it could be one thing or it could be multiple, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so very good. So when you're putting that together, when you're helping your clients, figure out that strategy, do you like how do you help them differentiate between say optimizing a shopping cart, which is, that grid of products versus a sales funnel, which could, just be like an initial product plus a stack of additional stuff. How do you help your clients walk through that maze to see what is the best channel or the best medium for them to present their product?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So, like we said previously, you could develop one way to acquire a customer, and that was sufficient. Today, the name of the game, in lieu of like attribution issues, stuff going on with Facebook and Apple, it really is brand development. And you might ask, well, how do you show up as a brand that's actually going to command attention, and people are actually going to trust your brand and have trust and affinity for the products you put out just by the nature of seeing your brand? And the truth is, you just need to show up. And so it's much less about having a one trick approach, being a one trick pony on Facebook with Facebook ads. And now it's showing up daily on Facebook, both paid and organic, showing up daily on TikTok. If Pinterest is relevant to your audience, showing up there. It's also about making sure you have a solid email marketing plan. And it's just getting diversified across all the channels. And it's kind of like back to the Wild West of marketing, because we have less visibility today in what's happening with our ads than ever before. Maybe not than ever before, but at least in recent time. And so it's really about showing up with good content and building affinity and building real relationships with your customers, as opposed to just trying to find this hack to get somebody to buy your products. And so conversion rates, your checkout page, that's all a part of it. But it's less about focusing on one thing and expecting that to make the difference, and looking at it more holistically about what do I need to do in order to show up as a real brand that people are going to trust and follow and be a fan of for years to come.
You talk about affinity, and I just want to I want to tease that out a little bit more, because we're not just talking about falling in love with the Starbucks mermaid,
Yeah.
logo, or, like, or the Nike swoosh, So one thing is that your brand should be recognizable. You should understand
Mm.
why you're there. Like, like as soon as you land on the page above the fold, before you start scrolling or doing anything, you really should make sure that that it is really well understood what it is you stand for, what
Mhm.
it is that you're selling, and like how you're gonna present that product to the market. But affinity is a funny word, right? Because it's something that, like, I may look at a logo or at a brand and be like, I don't care, right? And others are going to be like, "Oh my god, this is great." I think one of the most poignant examples for me is Moment. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Moment lenses. So, like, for the iPhone, they make this case that you can then screw on, like, a
Mm.
wide angle or a narrow lens onto it. And some people are like, they don't go anywhere without their Moment lenses, and other people are like, "What is this contraption? I'm never going to use it." Right?
Yeah.
So, and what they do is that they really approach their, selling their product in a way that, that makes a lot of sense. Not only is their product available on the shopping cart grid, it's also available in terms of the in terms of the courses that they put out, in terms of the influencers that they get to use their products. Like all of that. They really coalesce all of that together in a, yeah, in a really neat fashion. When you have a brand that comes to you, how do you get them to define how a customer can have affinity with their brand?
That's a great question.
Yeah, and I like the example you used of Moment even. They're creating this whole movement around their product.
Mhm.
And, it's not just here's our product, you can zoom in. They have courses that link back to the products and kind of a whole movement around it and using influencers, all that stuff. A great example that I like to look at is someone like Tesla. You don't see Tesla's stocks going down when iOS 15 drops, right? You don't see that because they've created such a strong brand, such a big movement, so
Mhm.
high affinity, solving such a massive problem that if any one channel gets stripped from them, it doesn't matter because they have this huge movement going. They have such high affinity.
Mhm.
And when I think of high affinity, I think of actually telling your story and
Mhm.
why that story is important to the marketplace and actually
Mhm.
solving a real problem, not just starting an e-commerce brand for the money to get a lot of sales, but actually something that you're really passionate about that's going
Mhm.
to solve a real problem. Because then if you're doing that, the marketing channels don't matter so much, and you're going to get a lot of sales. I have a buddy that runs like a $60 million e-commerce store now, and he just started this 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm thinking of the Adventure Challenge.
Yep.
And his product was so unique, so valuable, and created such a movement that he could throw anything up on Facebook, and he had a first 100K month from this one little ad that just went viral on
Yep.
Facebook. And it's because he was so passionate about it. He created this cool scrapbook, actually, where you scratch things off, read through things, and go on these adventures with your friends
Mhm.
based on the scratch off, and you can add pictures to it. Really cool product. But all that to say is
Mhm.
it solved such a big need in the marketplace of having meaningful connection with your friends
Mhm.
that the marketing was almost secondary
Yeah.
to that.
And then just to echo off what you said, I think it's something really important about not trying to be everything for everybody. So even the example of Tesla, it's like his mission is actually going to put a lot of people out of business if it's successful. And there's going to be people who hate him for it. And I think when we're talking about building affinity with your brand, you need to come up with an agenda, a why behind what you're doing. That's really, really powerful. And
Mhm.
oftentimes, to have that power and to have something that people are going to latch onto and be raving fans for, there is going to be a little bit of like us versus them in that scenario. And so I just want to encourage people to authentically show up as who you are and show up for what you believe in. And I think it's when people try to approach it really delicately that they don't build the raving fans and they don't build the high affinity with their brand.
That is so true. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Because really what happens is that, we can pick apart brands all day long, right? And show examples of what they're doing well and what they're not doing. But at the end of the day, really what what we should be worried about as marketers and as, merchants that we're trying to sell something, we really need to, it really comes down to knowing your audience. It really
Mm.
comes down to knowing exactly what it is that that your audience wants and how to communicate with them and how to put the product in their hands and to make them believe and to make them appreciate it. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Can you please let everyone know how they can learn more about your business and how they can reach out to you guys directly?
Yeah, definitely. So the best place is right there on the screen. Just go to our website, shopinova.com. From there, we actually have our own, it's called the Ecommerce Growth Show, where they can learn more about how to grow their store through free videos. We have a podcast too that they can sign up for, some free resources online. Also, if you're interested in actually working with us, there's a form on our website that you can just fill out, and one of our reps will be in touch to look through your brand. And we offer free audits for people where we essentially tell them, how to get from where they're stuck right now to where they want to go, all laid out for them.
Mm-hmm. And then the last thing I would add to that is, so the why behind what we do is we actually believe that when we show up and do our work well, the world's going to be better off because of it, because our whole mission is to empower and liberate. That's true for us when we started. It's true for the community we have of people that work with us. We want to provide a meaningful 9 to 5 community that helps people thrive personally and professionally. We want our services to actually empower and liberate the brands we work with. That being said, we're always looking for like really good talent to join our team. So another thing on that website is like, hey, maybe you're a really skilled marketer, you know all the things, maybe you can help build brands. We're always looking to build that crew of A+ players, and that's what allows us to be able to do what we're doing. So
Yep.
if you're even interested in that, like there's also a careers page on our website as well.
Amazing stuff. Thank you so much for sharing that. This has been a great conversation. I love nerding out on this stuff. It's so
Yeah.
much fun. And, really just thank you guys so much for coming and for sharing all that knowledge. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Had a great time today.